There's an article in the Epic Times called Why Most People Are Deficient in Minerals. And when I came across this, I found it particularly interesting because not only have I had a mineral deficiency before, but I find through testing that many people other than myself do as well. So we want to break this down and figure out why it's happening and of course what to do about it and what minerals to look out for. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski. Welcome to the channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and also give this video a thumbs up and comment below. It'll help get the video out to more people. If you want my whole index of natural health videos, go to www.drz.tv. Let's dive into this. It's estimated that 1 in 3 Americans is deficient in at least 10 minerals. That's a pretty bold statement right there, including potassium, manganese, magnesium, and zinc, putting them at risk for chronic diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. Now, when you look at this, potassium and magnesium are incredibly important for heart health. And, zinc, that's one that people have been paying attention to over the past 2 years because it's so important for your immune system health. And a lot of people are deficient in it, which ultimately depresses your immune function. There are 17 essential minerals broken down into 7 macro minerals and 10 trace minerals. I find that most people are very familiar with minerals like sodium, magnesium, and potassium, but they forget that there's so many others out there. And there's another 5 minerals that are possibly essential, this article says. The primary role of minerals is to act as cofactors for enzymes, but that's just the bare minimum. They're also important for protecting you from oxidative stress and also the creation, and this is an important one, the creation of ATP, and this is the energy currency in the body. Now I can tell you, as like I said, somebody who has had a mineral deficiency before, when you have this, you feel like garbage. I feel like I was walking through water. I felt like I just had no energy, just really depleted of these minerals because I was training rigorously for a Spartan race and sweating a lot, following a low carb diet. It just put me in a bad place and I felt horrible. Now, there's 3 reasons, according to this, that you may be mineral deficient. And it's estimated that about 1/3 of the U.S. population is likely deficient in 10 minerals below. Estimated percent not hitting the recommended daily allowance or estimated percent deficient. Okay, we'll go over that. So boron, it's estimated that 75% are deficient. Manganese, 75%. Magnesium, 52.2 to 68%. And this is a big one. Now, magnesium is one that personally has helped me out quite a bit because it's very helpful for those who are dealing with stress, those who can't sleep at night, those who have anxiety, those who maybe even have a heart condition. Now, I don't necessarily have all those. I'm just saying that it did definitely help me sleep better at night and also helped me with being able to just feel more relaxed and calm, and also just my mind feeling more calm. And what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description below to the magnesium I use. There's one called NeuroCalm that helps calm the brain down. Chromium, 56%, calcium, zinc, iron, copper, selenium, and molybdenum. That one's a little bit harder to say, and that's one you probably have never heard of. Now, the doctor who wrote this cites 3 primary reasons that this may be happening and why so many people are deficient, including the fact that our foods are more nutrient depleted. This is obviously a huge factor, okay? So there's a lot of over farming in today's modern agricultural society there. Over farming leads to depleted soil, which in turn leads to mineral deficiencies and nutrient deficiencies in general within the crops that are grown within the soil. And so that's why we see the food being depleted. People aren't selecting the right foods to eat, and they're not reaching their optimal intake of minerals, which we'll talk more about in just a second. And chronic disease states are compounding the problem. So to unpack that a little bit, of course, people just don't eat right. We know that due to the diabetic rates, the obesity rates. We know people aren't eating right. That's a no-brainer. And then the other thing that we have to look at is the chronic disease problem that they're talking about. For instance, gastrointestinal damage can decrease the amount of minerals you absorb. Living in a state of significant significant inflammation taxes your system and will increase the burn rate of minerals. Kidney damage increases the excretion of minerals, while high insulin levels cause minerals to be excreted in your urine. Now, it's estimated that 80% of people are suffering from one or more chronic condition, and this is 80% of adults. Now, it's estimated that 55% of adults are suffering from 2 or more chronic conditions. Okay, so when we think about the chronic condition issue that's related to this, we can easily see the problem here. Now, we also have to look at most people are chronically inflamed, okay, and this is one of the things that leads to chronic disease, but it says it's taxing your system, you're burning through more minerals, and then, of course, I mean, there's the majority of people who are suffering from some level of insulin resistance, which causes high insulin, which causes you to excrete these minerals in your urine, as it says. So definitely some big issues there. Now, minerals for antioxidant defense and immunity, very, very important. I don't want to focus too much on that. I want to get to this a little bit. The recommended daily allowances are inadequate. Now, recommended daily allowances are based on studies to make sure you're not deficient, but sure, this level isn't the same as one that will give you optimal health. And I talk about this all the time. If I ever do blood work with somebody, I always talk to them about this because, you know, if you have a vitamin that is like, well, it's at sufficient levels, but sufficient levels doesn't mean optimal. And let's read on here so we can see the example that they use. In the case of enzymes dependent on vitamin C, for example, you need to consume 120 milligrams to 150 milligrams of vitamin C to make sure those enzymes are highly optimized, which is far more than the 6 milligrams to 8 milligrams of vitamin C needed to prevent scurvy. So in general medicine, what they typically do when they look at blood tests is they just go, well, you know, 6 to 8 milligrams means that if you're below that, then you're basically going to get scurvy, right? Whereas that is not optimal. That's not optimal bodily function that you're going to reach with those low levels. So we want to make sure that we're much higher. Recommended daily let me move on to over here. You can have up to 1,000-fold difference between preventing deficiency and optimal intake, and that's important to understand according to the doctor who wrote this article. Magnesium is another example, but with lower differences between deficiency and optimal levels. You only need about 150 milligrams to 180 milligrams a day to prevent deficiency, but optimal levels are closer to 600 milligrams per day. This is an important concept, so don't get caught into how much I need to prevent a deficiency, but you want to look at how much you need to be optimal. Vitamins in general, it's very important to look at all of them like that because, for instance, you can take somebody who has vitamin D problems, right? And let's say that somebody has a deficiency. Well, it's very clear they have a deficiency, so then it's like, if you were to get tested by your doctor and they say, oh, well, you don't have a deficiency, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're functioning at optimal levels. We want to make sure that vitamin D is high enough so that it can work adequately in the body, not just be right over that edge so that you aren't falling into that deficient status, which is causing severe harm to your body. Now, let's go ahead and move down a little bit and talk about you know, the benefits of mineral water, okay? This is important because this is what a lot of people are turning to. There's a study that found consuming 7 ounces of mineral water 7 times a day increases magnesium absorption and retention by 40% versus consuming larger amounts twice a day. And I say that because what we basically can see here is that if you consume minerals slowly throughout the day, your body is retaining them better versus if you just slam a super high mineral electrolyte drink and just slam it really quick. And so we can optimize the bioavailability and uptake by just spreading it out throughout the day. Now, it's also important to realize that you can drink too much of this, okay? So if you're getting mineral waters and you are just slamming them all day long, you can cause some problems. I actually had a patient one time and this individual felt like garbage. And the hard part about having a mineral deficiency and then of course having too many minerals in the body that you're getting is that the symptoms in a lot of cases are going to mirror each other. And as this person was telling me a lot of their symptoms, I was thinking, oh, they might have a mineral deficiency. And anyway, we worked through some things and we just weren't quite getting there. Well, I later on found out that this individual was buying mineral waters, and that's all this individual was drinking. Literally, they didn't drink any water anywhere else. They were drinking bottled mineral water throughout the day. all day long. And they actually were getting too many minerals, and it was causing a lot of problems. She was getting heart palpitations, all kinds of crazy things show up. So we want to make sure that we don't overdo it as well. And so this is the main concept here, is that we want to make sure that we're getting proper minerals. If you're taking a daily multivitamin, you're likely going to be okay. I mean, I go and not only do I take a daily multivitamin, I also use an electrolyte drink because I exercise daily. I sweat a lot throughout my exercise. And then I also added magnesium. I'm a big fan of adding in magnesium because it's highly beneficial. I think a lot of people greatly could benefit from this, especially when you look at how many people are suffering from lack of sleep and everything else. And then if you take that multi and you go in, you eat lots of good leafy greens, and you make sure that you're buying the best quality food that you can, you're going to be just fine. So make sure that you're getting proper minerals because it can really affect your life, as you have just seen. Go ahead and check out some of the other videos on this channel.